All right, hello everybody. Today is Memorial Day, and it is our patriotic duty to learn about debt payoff. And this is my opinion, but I feel like society is way too over competitive. And the reason why it's too over competitive is because most people are fighting for scraps, right? And when you have a bunch of debt payments, it feels like you have literally nothing left over and you're fighting for scraps. So when you are debt free, I'm going to copy Dave Ramsey's phrase, you will have financial peace, right? So let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to pay off debt using something called the velocity method, which we used to call something else, but was banned by the state of Illinois. I'm not even kidding about this if this is your first time on the channel. So what's the first step to doing debt payoff? Well, it's just you creating a budget. Why? Because your budget's your debt attack plan. So if your income, expenses, leftover checking and savings, and then in your expense breakdown, you list every single debt that you have. So 3 credit cards, an auto loan, and a mortgage. And then you have all your debts and the debt payments listed here. And then on the very last line item, you just have a general figure for your monthly expenses. Every single month, we'll just say we spend about $2,000 a month on normal things like food, gas, insurance, and all that other stuff. And this is the number that you would still have to pay even if you were debt free. Okay. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to show that even with the same income and the same expenses, that we can make a really big difference in the outcomes because what we're doing is changing the flow of money. In fact, when I was first presented this strategy, one thing that was heavily emphasized was like, hey, it's the same income and same lifestyle, right? Same income, same lifestyle. Okay. And you can see here that in the first column here, what we call average American banking, this feels like a lot of stress because even though you're making literally six figures, because $6,000 a month after tax is pretty much $100,000 salary, you have no margin for error. You have no breathing room, right? And so what we're going to show is how we can increase this 90 to a much bigger number, even though we have the same income and the same expenses. So what we're going to do is do something called crazy. And what is this crazy thing called? It's called not saving money, right? So if you want to break down what this strategy is or deconstruct it, it literally is not saving money and then using a line of credit to help you not save money, right? And then we're going to focus on this thing called cash flow. So this is a little bit different than what we normally think of as cash flow because the cash flow that we're taught is basically what's left over in our checking and savings, where here it's basically the amount our debt gets reduced, right? And another thing that I want to make a note is that your checking and savings account is normally thought of as the final destination of your money, whereas in here, in the velocity method, basically it's just a temporary stop for your money, right? Your checking and savings shouldn't have money at the by the end of the month. That's the way what we think about it. Okay, so we're also going to assume we have access to a line of credit, $80,000 at 8%. So it's probably going to be a home equity line of credit. And then, a lot of times when people see the strategy, they think it's unrealistic because they make assumptions that you can get a free and clear line of credit at this stage of your banking journey, right? And the truth is you can't get a line of credit. You can't get a line of credit when you have all this debt and you only have $90 left over. Why? Banks don't lend money to people who need it, right? That's the honest truth. They don't lend money to people who need it. And so, you might be thinking, well, if they don't lend money to people who need it, why are you demonstrating with a free and clear line of credit? Well, that's because if you want to see a realistic scenario where people give me their real numbers, I did one where I did 22 debts. I showcased it, and then this person had a maxed out line of credit, which is what would normally happen because banks don't lend money to people who need it. But here's the thing, you don't need to see this type of realistic scenario that's 1 hour and 30 minutes. That took me 1 hour and 30 minutes to cover to understand why having a line of credit would be useful. But the reason why I show for including line of credit is because it's much easier to understand it from this point of view than if I actually showed you a real life scenario where 22 debts, $4.10 left over with the starting budget, which was insane. It's a lot harder to understand it from this perspective, believe it or not. So we're going to start out with a free and clear line of credit. And plus, if you knew this strategy, you probably wouldn't even be here, right? But the free and clear line of credit is probably the most unrealistic scenario that you will encounter because banks don't lend money to people who need it. But we demonstrate it because you will understand the concept with the free and clear line of credit. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to rank our debts using something called the cash flow index. And then once we move our debts into the line of credit, then we'll free up cash flow without changing our income. So if you don't know what the cash flow index is, it's basically a formula where you take the debt amount, so 15,000 in this case, and then you divide by the monthly payment, 47.5, and then it gives you a number. And so you could kind of think of this as a debt ranking system. And what we do is we take these low numbers and move it into a line of credit to free up cash flow. And so this is, what is this? This is 15, 27, 30. I'm going to sum it up. So that's $72,000 of credit card debt. And then you can take a look here, this 209, what does this big number mean? Well, it basically means that you have to pay a lot of money for an itty bitty amount of cash flow, right? So this is why we don't pay off the mortgage first, we pay it off last, because we literally have to give someone $235,000 for only $1,100 of cash flow, right? So 72,000. I mean, not 72,000, 72. Yeah, 72,000 is how much we have in credit card debt. And these are the associated with the low cash flow index numbers. And guess what happens when we move this into the line of credit? Oh my goodness. Look at that. These payments go to zero because we did a simple debt transfer. And then if you take a look here, look at that. Same income, shuffle some expenses, and this $90 somehow turns into $2,482.76. And then our final step is we're going to put our entire paycheck into the line of credit, take our expenses out, and then rinse and repeat over and over again, right? Put the entire 6,000 in, take our expenses out, and then you'll see that this amount will be reduced in the line of credit after every single month. And so this is what we're going to do here. All right. And so to show the next month's balance is basically the previous month's balance, previous month's interest minus the cash flow. And then that's 2482.76. And then we need to calculate the interest because obviously the line of credit charges us interest to use, and it's going to be 0.08 divided by 12. And so now the reason why we dump money into the line of credit is because it is the only financial tool where you could dump your entire paycheck and then take out your money whenever you need. So it gives you ultimate flexibility in how your money is used when paying off debt. Whereas, if you put your entire money or your entire paycheck into a credit card, or let me show you right here. So let's say I put my entire $6,000 paycheck into credit card one. I can't use credit card one to pay credit card 2 or 3 or any of these loans because the credit card has an inherent inflexibility to it. So that's why we use a line of credit so that we can use all of our money and use it to simply pay off debt, right? And let me go ahead and copy and paste this right here. And then we see that soon in month 33, all of our debts are paid off. Month 33, okay? 33 months. And then this is going to be 72K, right? 72K. And then and now we simply paid off all the credit card debt. And now we have the auto loan and the mortgage, okay? So now let me go ahead and do this. And this is going to be month 33. So we just need to put the current month in our loan tracker. Now, here's the thing is that a lot of people, they're really heavily focused on the interest rate, right? So they see this and they go, oh my goodness, this 4% interest rate we should focus on rather than 3% because the interest rate's the only thing that matters. Since we're using the cash flow index system and we're going by the order, right? The smallest one first. What does this mean? I pay a little bit amount of money and I get a relatively big amount of cash flow, right? Whereas this 198, what does that mean? It means I pay a lot of money for a small amount of cash flow. So why not pay this off first and then apply that cash flow to the next debt, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to get rid of the car loan relatively quickly. So I'm going to just do this right here. And then this is going to be plus 10308.10308.69. And then we're going to get back the cash flow from the auto loan. So that's going to be $3,995. So this is going to be 0. And then this is going to be $2,878.07. So let's go ahead and do that. Copy and paste. and then this is going to be minus 2878.07, and then we're going to copy and paste, and then we see that that car loan gets paid off in about 2 months. So 36 months paid off, or about 3 months, 36 months. And that's 72 plus 22. So that's 94K. And then now the last one is the 30-year mortgage. So this is going to be 36. This is going to be 0. And then now we have $222,000 left in the balance of our mortgage. So at this point, this is going to be relatively easy. We only have two options. One is extra payment. So if you don't know what that is that you just make the monthly payment and then you put $2,878 on top of that, right? And so you're basically directly paying that out of your checking account. And then the other option that you may not have thought of is you can still use a line of credit, right, to pay the mortgage. And one of the reasons why we present this option is because no one does extra payments. And the reason why no one does extra payments because it's like going to the gym in January. It may be even the cheapest option, but nobody does it, right? So what we present as an alternative is a strategy that's much easier to execute that we call sweeping, right? Or chunking, or whatever you want to call it, right? I originally learned as chunking, but I'm just going to start calling it sweeping. So basically you take a small amount of the loan and move it into the line of credit. And this is only necessary for big loans with high cash flow index numbers, right? So if you have a very big loan and small cash flow, that results from paying off that loan, and there's an interest rate difference between the loan and the line. So lines of credit usually start off at like 6, the cheapest, and then like 18%, or actually maybe even higher than that, but usually 18% at the max. Okay, so if you have a loan that has a big interest rate difference, you don't want to move that loan into a line, especially if it has a high cash flow index, which usually means the term is very long, right? And so a lot of people make that mistake. They say, hey, let's do a first lien HELOC, move that loan into a line because all loans are bad, lines of credit good. That's actually not true, right? But the reason why you might want to do this is because it's much easier to execute, like much easier to execute. And so I'm just going to show you an example of how this works. So let's say, from this $222,000, we just moved $6,000 into a line of credit. And remember, for all amortized loans, until the loan is paid off, you don't have cash flow. So the cash flow will stay the same, but you'll see that in just, actually, let me do this. In just in about 3 months, that basically that principal gets paid off, and then you rinse and repeat in every 2 or 3 months or so. So that's how it works. You just kind of move that principal into the line of credit, and then you just repeat the strategy over and over again. So a lot of times, okay, people say, well, why would you do it this way? It's just because there's a low execution barrier, whereas with extra payments, it's actually quite high. I mean, think about it. Like, how many people do you know who can actually do extra payments onto their loans or even credit cards and never do it? The reason that they can't do it is that even though they know they can do it, is because if you overpay a loan or a credit card, you're introducing friction in the flow of money, and people are afraid of that, which is why they keep money into their checking account, right? So that's why we do this strategy, or we present it as one way that you can pay off the mortgage, 30-year mortgage, and make it easy to pay off, right? And so if you want to see how this works, we have a loan calculator right here. So I'm just going to 235,000. 222072.01. So let me write that down. 222072.01. That's the current balance. And then we'll do $6,000 sweep, $6,000 income. And then our expenses is everything except for the loan we're trying to pay off. So what are we trying to pay off? Is $2,000. I'm sorry, we're trying to pay this one off. So it's everything except this. So this should be $2,000, right? And then this is going to be 2000. And then we see that this gets paid off in 5.3 years, right? So 5.3 years, 25 grand of interest, not bad. Okay, let me just go back here, and then this is going to be 36 divided by 12 plus 5.3, and then that's going to be 8.22 years, and then we are debt free. Okay, alrighty then. Yeah, to 8.22 years. So now we have completed our patriotic duty to become debt-free. See how easy that was? I make it so easy. And we're only at like the 15-minute mark. I don't know any other YouTuber who can do it this quickly, show all the steps in 15 minutes. I'm the fastest draw in the West. Okay. All right. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. Happy Memorial Day. And remember, it's your patriotic duty to learn how to be debt free. Okay. Have a good one, and I'll see you on the next video.